It was a warm afternoon, and Lisa Carter walked down the sidewalk, just like she did every day. She moved carefully, tapping her white cane in front of her to feel the ground. Beside her, her golden retriever, Max, walked with steady steps, leading her safely. Lisa wore dark sunglasses. Most people who saw her thought she was just a blind woman, trying to make her way through the busy streets. They thought she was weak, helpless, and slow. But they were wrong. Lisa had lost her eyesight 5 years ago in a terrible accident. In the beginning, it had been scary. She had to learn how to live all over again, how to walk, how to cook, how to do simple things without seeing. But she never gave up. She trained herself. She listened carefully to the world around her. She became strong in ways people couldn't see. And Max? He was more than just a guide dog. Before he came into Lisa's life, Max had been a Navy SEAL K9. He had trained in combat, completed dangerous missions, and knew how to protect the people he loved. He wasn't just a pet. He was a soldier, a warrior, and Lisa's best friend. Lisa walked calmly, feeling the warm sun on her face. She loved these small moments: the breeze in the air, the sound of birds, the scent of fresh coffee from the cafe ahead. She was just a few blocks away from her favorite spot, a little coffee shop she visited every day. Then, she heard it. The deep, growling sound of motorcycles. She paused for a second, tightening her grip on Max's harness. The sound was getting closer. Then it stopped. Laughter followed. Lisa could tell there were at least 3 or 4 of them. The way their boots scraped against the pavement, the way they chuckled under their breath, it was clear. They weren't friendly. "Hey, lady." One of them called out. "Need help crossing the street?" Another one snickered. "Yeah, you might trip and fall." More laughter. Lisa kept walking, acting like she hadn't heard them. She had dealt with people like this before. Some thought they were funny. Some thought they were dangerous. Either way, she didn't want any part of it. Max walked beside her, his ears twitching. He could sense something was off. Lisa could feel the way his body tensed under her hand. She could tell the men were moving closer. "Come on, sweetheart, don't be shy," one of them said. "We just want to talk." Lisa stopped. She could hear them now. 3 men. Maybe 4. One directly in front of her, one to the left, one behind. The 4th one was moving slowly, circling her like a predator. She tightened her grip on Max's harness. He was ready. "You sure that little puppy can protect you?" One of the men sneered. Max let out a quiet growl. Lisa smiled slightly. They had no idea. "You know," she said calmly, "most people just leave me alone." The leader scoffed. "We're not most people." Lisa turned her head slightly. "No," she said softly. "You're not." Before they could react, Max moved. Faster than any of them could see, he lunged. The leader screamed as Max clamped his teeth around his wrist, twisting just enough to make him drop whatever he was holding. A knife clattered to the ground. The others jumped back in shock. "What the?" Max didn't bite down. He didn't need to. He just held the man in place, his powerful jaws locked around his wrist, waiting for Lisa's command. Lisa stood still. She wasn't scared. She wasn't surprised. Max had done this before. And he would do it again. "Get your dog off me!" the leader yelled, his voice shaking. Lisa stayed calm. "I thought you wanted to help me." One of the others muttered, "Dude, that's not a normal dog." Lisa smirked. "No, he's not." Max didn't move. His strong body was tense, waiting. If Lisa gave the word, he would take the man down completely. "You should go," Lisa said simply. The men hesitated. One of them grabbed the leader's arm, pulling him back. "Let's get out of here," he muttered. They scrambled to their motorcycles, their engines roaring to life. In seconds, they were gone, their laughter replaced with fear. Max finally let go and took a step back, standing tall beside Lisa. She knelt down, running a hand over his fur. "Good boy," she whispered. Max wagged his tail, but his eyes were still watching, still alert. Lisa stood up and continued walking toward the coffee shop, like nothing had happened. People always thought she was weak. They thought she was helpless. But they never saw the truth. And the ones who judged her? They were the ones who never saw it coming. Lisa stood still for a moment, her grip firm on Max's harness. She could hear everything. The way the biker's boots scraped against the ground. The way his voice was full of amusement, as if this was all just a joke to him. "You sure that little puppy can protect you?" The man sneered. His voice was rough, with a tone that made Lisa's skin crawl. "Maybe you need some real men to walk you home." Lisa didn't move. She didn't react. She had been in situations like this before. People thought she was weak just because she couldn't see. They thought she needed help, or worse, they thought they could do whatever they wanted, and she wouldn't even know. But Lisa wasn't helpless. And Max? Max was already alert, his ears twitching, his sharp mind working. Lisa could feel his muscles tighten under her fingers. He was ready. Max let out a low growl, so soft only Lisa could hear. It wasn't loud or threatening, just a warning. Lisa understood what it meant. He was assessing the threat. She took a slow breath, keeping her voice calm. "I'm fine, thanks," she said firmly. But they weren't done. Another biker laughed, a deep, ugly sound. "She can't even see us, man," he said, elbowing his friend. "We could do whatever we wanted, and she wouldn't even know." Lisa's stomach tightened. She wasn't scared, but she was angry. The others laughed too, their voices bouncing off the empty alley walls. It was a horrible sound, full of cruelty and arrogance. Max's ears twitched again. His entire body stiffened. He was waiting. Lisa knew exactly what was happening. These men thought she was an easy target. They thought they could mess with her just because she was blind. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Max was not just a little puppy. He was a retired Navy SEAL K-9. And right now, he was calculating his next move. The air in the alley felt heavier now. The laughter had faded just a little, replaced by a silence that told Lisa the men were thinking. Deciding. Were they just going to keep mocking her? Or were they about to do something worse? Lisa had been blind for 5 years now, and in that time, she had learned something important. When people think you're weak, they either ignore you or try to take advantage of you. These men were the second kind. She could feel them moving closer. The shift in the air. The way their boots scuffed the pavement. Then came the voice again, the leader. His tone was different this time, more amused, but with something else beneath it. Something darker. "Hey, lady," he said, stepping even closer. Lisa could tell he was right in front of her now. "You look tense. We're just having a little fun. No need to get all serious." Lisa tightened her grip on Max's harness. She could hear one of the other men behind her now. Another one was to her left. They were trying to surround her. Max stayed completely still, but Lisa could feel his muscles ready to move at any second. His ears twitched, listening just as carefully as she was. The leader chuckled. "You know, a blind woman like you, walking alone in a place like this, that's not very smart." Lisa didn't answer. Because she wasn't alone. Max shifted just a little, placing himself directly in front of Lisa. His body pressed lightly against her legs, letting her know he was ready. The leader must have noticed. What's wrong, sweetheart? He mocked. Your little dog doesn't like us. Lisa let out a slow breath. I don't think you understand, she said, keeping her voice even. The man laughed. Oh, I understand just fine. Lisa shook her head. No, she said, tilting her head slightly in his direction. You really don't. The leader scoffed. What's that supposed to? Before he could finish, Max moved. It happened so fast, Lisa could barely track it. 1 second, Max was standing still. The next, he lunged. He didn't go for the throat. He didn't even bite, not yet. Instead, he barreled straight into the man's legs, knocking him completely off balance. The leader stumbled back, arms flailing as he tried to catch himself. He failed. With a loud thud, he hit the ground, the air rushing out of his lungs. What the? The other bikers froze. Max stood over the fallen man, his sharp eyes locked onto him. He was completely still, but his body was tense, powerful. He was waiting. Lisa smiled slightly. I told you, she said. You didn't understand. The leader groaned, pushing himself up on his elbows. What the hell? One of the other bikers stepped forward, anger in his voice. You crazy lady. Control your... Max's head snapped toward him. The man stopped mid-sentence. Lisa didn't need to see his face to know he had just realized his mistake. Max was still standing completely still, but now he was staring at the new man. Unblinking. Focused. Ready. Lisa let out a small chuckle. Control him. She repeated. Oh, I do. That's the thing. The men didn't move. Max didn't move. The air was heavy again. Then Lisa spoke, her voice soft, but full of meaning. I haven't even given him a command yet. That did it? The bikers took a step back. Even the leader, still sitting on the ground, froze. Lisa could hear their breathing now, shaky, uncertain. Max hadn't even attacked. He had only given them a warning. And they were already terrified. Lisa tilted her head. Maybe you should leave now. The leader swallowed hard. Yeah, he muttered, scrambling to his feet. Yeah, we should. The other bikers didn't argue. Boots scraped against the pavement as they backed away. Then came the rumble of engines starting. One by one, the motorcycles roared to life. Then, just like that, they were gone. Lisa listened until she couldn't hear them anymore. Then she let out a slow breath and knelt down. Max looked up at her, his tail wagging just a little. Lisa smiled and ran her fingers through his golden fur. Good boy. Max huffed softly, as if to say, of course. Lisa stood up again, adjusted her sunglasses, and took hold of Max's harness. Without another word, they kept walking, as if nothing had happened. Because to them, it was just another day. Lisa stood still, her hand resting on Max's back. The air was tense, thick with unspoken threats. She wasn't afraid. Not even a little. These men thought they had power over her, that because she was blind, she was weak. They had no idea. She took a slow, steady breath and tilted her head slightly. She had learned to listen in ways others didn't. Every footstep, every breath, every shift of the wind told her something. She could hear the leader's stance, feet planted firmly, arms crossed. The way his leather jacket creaked as he moved slightly. The way his friends shuffled their feet, uncertain now. They were waiting to see what she would do. Max stood tall beside her, completely still but fully alert. His ears twitched as he analyzed the situation. Lisa could feel the tension in his body. He was waiting for her signal. Ready. Listen, guys, Lisa said coolly, her voice steady. I'm giving you one chance to walk away. There was silence for a moment. Then the leader scoffed. Or what? He mocked. You gonna call for help? Lisa smirked, tilting her head in his direction. I don't need to. Laughter. His friends chuckled like this was some kind of joke. Lisa could hear the leader step forward. His boots scraped the pavement. He was close now. Too close. Max shifted slightly, barely noticeable. His body stiffened. Lisa could feel his energy change. He was ready. Yeah. The leader taunted. What are you gonna do, blind girl? Lisa didn't react. She didn't have to. Before anyone could blink, Max moved. It happened in an instant. A blur of golden fur. A flash of movement. Then a cry of pain. The leader yelped as Max lunged straight for his wrist. His powerful jaws locked onto it, twisting just enough to make the knife slip from his fingers. It clattered onto the pavement with a sharp metallic ring. The other bikers jumped back, cursing. What the? Lisa stood still, her fingers still resting gently on Max's harness. She wasn't surprised. She didn't even flinch. This wasn't the first time Max had neutralized a threat. The leader struggled, trying to yank his hand free, but Max held firm. He wasn't biting down too hard, not yet. He knew exactly what he was doing. His training was perfect. His control? Flawless. Lisa's lips curled into a smirk. Let me guess, she said calmly. You weren't expecting that. The leader gasped, his voice shaking with anger and just a hint of fear. Get your dog off me. He spat. Lisa tilted her head, pretending to think. I don't know, she said. You don't seem very polite. Maybe I should let him teach you some manners. Max growled low in his throat, and the leader froze. Lisa could hear it, the slight hitch in his breath, the way his heartbeat sped up. He was scared now. Good. One of the other bikers, the one with the nervous voice, took a shaky step back. Dude, he muttered. This dog isn't normal. Lisa almost laughed. Now they were starting to understand. Max was no ordinary dog. He had once been part of an elite military team, trained to take down threats faster than most humans could react. He had been in war zones, in rescue missions, in high-stakes operations. And now he was Lisa's partner. Lisa crouched down slightly, running a hand through Max's fur. You're being nice, aren't you, buddy? She murmured. Max's ears twitched, but he didn't let go. Lisa straightened, looking toward where she knew the leader was. You see, she said, her voice light and calm, Max has rules. He only attacks when I tell him to. She let the words hang in the air. A beat of silence. And then she added, I haven't told him to yet. That did it? The leader stiffened. Lisa could hear the fear creeping into his breath, the way he swallowed hard. She smiled. Finally. One of the bikers muttered, screw this, man. Let's go. The leader hesitated, still caught in Max's grip. Lisa sighed. Fine, she said, snapping her fingers once. Max instantly released the leader's wrist and stepped back, standing at Lisa's side like nothing had happened. The leader stumbled backward, cradling his arm. Crazy dog. He spat. Lisa raised an eyebrow. Crazy. She repeated. No, he's just well trained. The leader rubbed his wrist, backing away. He was angry, but he wasn't stupid. He knew he had lost. You're lucky, he muttered. Next time, you won't have your dog. Lisa let out a small laugh. Next time. She echoed. I don't think there will be a next time. She could hear their hesitation. The weight of the moment pressing down on them. Lisa tilted her head slightly. You know, Most people who try to mess with me regret it, she said. I'd walk away now if I were you. For once, they listened. The leader turned on his heel and stormed away. His friends followed, muttering under their breaths. The sound of their heavy boots faded into the distance, and soon, Lisa heard the deep rumble of motorcycles starting up. Then, just like that, they were gone. The alley was silent again. Lisa sighed, reaching down to rub Max's ears. You did good, she whispered. Max wagged his tail slightly but stayed alert. Ever watchful. Ever ready. Lisa straightened, adjusting her sunglasses. Come on, she said, stepping forward. Coffee shop's waiting. And with that, they kept walking. As if nothing had happened. Because for them, this was just another day. The leader staggered back, gripping his wrist tightly. His fingers trembled as he touched the tender skin where Max had bitten down, not hard enough to break the bone, but enough to make him feel it. His breathing was fast and uneven. The color in his face drained as he stared at the dog standing calmly in front of Lisa. What kind of dog is that? He gasped. Lisa tilted her head slightly, a small smile playing on her lips. Max. She said casually, reaching down to scratch his head. Oh, he's just a retired military working dog. The bikers stiffened. Lisa heard their breaths catch. The sound of leather shifting as they stepped back ever so slightly. Trained in combat, she continued. Knows over 50 attack commands. Served 2 tours overseas. The leader's mouth opened, but no words came out. Lisa let that sink in. She could almost hear their thoughts. They had assumed she was weak. They had assumed Max was just a harmless guide dog. They assumed wrong. She let out a soft chuckle and tilted her head. But hey, she added lightly, you called him a puppy, right? The group exchanged panicked glances. One of them gulped audibly. Another took a tiny step back, his boots scraping the pavement. Lisa could hear everything, their uncertainty, their growing fear. She felt it in the way the air around them shifted. Max, on the other hand, hadn't moved an inch. He stood perfectly still, his sharp eyes locked onto the men in front of him. Watching. Waiting. Ready. One of the bikers finally found his voice. That thing's a weapon. He stammered. Lisa chuckled. Thing. She echoed, shaking her head. His name is Max. Max's ears twitched at the sound of his name, but he did not move. He was trained not to. Lisa let the silence stretch, enjoying the tension building around them. Then she spoke again, her voice calm, almost playful. And here's a fun fact, she said, adjusting her sunglasses. He only attacks on command. Silence. Absolute silence. Lisa could feel their fear now. It clung to the air around them like thick smoke. The bikers tensed up. Their bodies stiff, their hands clenched. She imagined their wide eyes, their quick glances at Max. They were waiting. Waiting for her to say something. One word. One command. And they knew if she said it, it would be over. Lisa almost laughed. Then, she took a step forward. That was enough. The bikers reacted instantly. In a frantic scramble, they backed away. One of them tripped over his own feet, cursing under his breath. Let's get out of here. One of them hissed, grabbing the leader's arm. The leader snapped out of his frozen state, turning sharply on his heel. They ran for their motorcycles, their boots pounding against the pavement. The sound of engines roaring to life filled the alley. Lisa stood still, listening as their tires screeched against the pavement. And then just like that they were gone. The alley fell silent once more. Lisa waited a few moments, listening for any sign that they might come back. Nothing. She let out a breath, then knelt down beside Max. He looked up at her, his tail wagging just slightly. She ran her fingers through his thick golden fur and smiled. "Nice work, buddy," she murmured. Max let out a soft huff, almost like he was unimpressed. Lisa laughed lightly. For Max, this was just another mission. Another job. Another victory. She scratched behind his ears, feeling the tension in her own shoulders slowly fade. "Mission complete," she whispered. Max wagged his tail. Lisa stood up, adjusted her sunglasses, and took a deep breath. The coffee shop wasn't far now. She reached for Max's harness, and together, they started walking. Just like that. As if nothing had ever happened. Because for them, this was just another day. Lisa stood still, taking a deep breath. The alley was silent now, except for the faint hum of the city in the background. The bikers were gone, their motorcycles leaving behind only the smell of burnt rubber. Max sat beside her, his golden fur shining in the dim light. He was calm now, but still alert. His ears twitched at the sound of distant footsteps. Lisa knew exactly who it was. The police had arrived. She had heard the sirens in the distance a few minutes ago. A bystander must have seen what happened and called them. She wasn't surprised. She turned slightly toward the approaching footsteps. A deep, familiar voice greeted her. "Lisa Carter," the officer said with a chuckle. "Let me guess. Some punks thought they could mess with you." Lisa smirked. "Something like that," she replied casually. Officer Daniels stepped closer. Lisa recognized his voice. He was one of the few cops who actually knew her well. She had met him a few times before, usually in situations just like this. She heard him kneel down, likely giving Max a scratch behind the ears. "Hey, Max," he greeted. "Still keeping the streets safe, huh?" Max let out a small huff, almost as if he was agreeing. Daniels chuckled. "I gotta say," he said, standing up again, "those guys picked the wrong woman." Lisa shrugged. "They always do." Daniels let out a low whistle. "So, what happened?" Lisa sighed. "They surrounded me. Thought I was an easy target." She gave Max a gentle pat. "Turns out, they were the ones who didn't see what was coming." Daniels let out a short laugh. "I bet they ran like scared rabbits." Lisa nodded. "They did." She could hear the other officers talking in the background, probably asking witnesses for details. One of them approached and asked if she needed a ride home. Lisa shook her head. "I'm fine. Just heading to get some coffee." Daniels let out a chuckle. "You're something else, Lisa." She smiled. "So I've been told." Another officer walked over. "The bikers are long gone. No one got a clear look at their faces, but they won't be coming back anytime soon. We'll keep an eye out, just in case." Lisa nodded. "I doubt they'll try anything again." Daniels laughed. "Yeah, after dealing with Max the war hero? I'd say they learned their lesson." Lisa felt the corners of her lips lift slightly. "Let's hope so." Daniels sighed. "All right, we'll file a report, but there's not much to do if they're gone. You sure you don't want us to give you a ride?" Lisa shook her head again. "Nope. Max and I still have a coffee date." Daniels chuckled. "All right. Take care, Lisa." She smiled. "Always." She felt Max nudge her leg slightly, ready to move. She gave a small nod and took hold of his harness. "Come on, buddy," she murmured. "Let's go." And just like that, they continued walking, leaving the police behind. The coffee shop was only a few blocks away. Lisa walked at a steady pace, feeling the cool evening air on her skin. Everything felt calm now. She could hear the sound of laughter in the distance, the rustle of leaves in the trees, the rhythmic clicking of Max's paws against the pavement. It was peaceful. As she walked, she thought about the bikers. Would they remember this night? Definitely. Would they ever try something like this again? Probably not. She hoped they had learned their lesson. Some people only saw what was right in front of them. They thought power came from sight, from numbers, from being bigger and louder. But real power? Real power was quiet. It was patient. It was controlled. Lisa smiled to herself. They had assumed she was weak. They assumed she was alone. They had assumed wrong. The bell above the coffee shop door jingled as Lisa stepped inside. "Lisa!" called a familiar voice. It was Jake, the owner. "You're late today." Lisa smiled as she walked up to the counter. "Ran into some trouble." Jake sighed. "Let me guess. Some idiots thought they could mess with you." Lisa smirked. "Something like that." Jake chuckled. "People never learn, huh? They really don't." She took a seat at her usual table while Jake prepared her drink. Max settled beside her, resting his head on his paws. A few minutes later, Jake placed a warm cup of coffee in front of her. "On the house," he said. "For you and your hero." Lisa reached for the cup, her fingers wrapping around the warmth. She smiled. "Thanks, Jake." He gave Max a pat. "You're a legend, buddy." Max let out a contented sigh. Lisa took a sip of her coffee, letting the warmth spread through her. She knew that, by morning, the bikers would be telling a very different story. Maybe they would claim they had fought off some crazy attack dog. Maybe they would leave out the fact that they had run for their lives. Either way, it didn't matter. Lisa knew the truth. And more importantly, so did Max. As she sat there, sipping her coffee, she felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Justice had been served. And once again, she had proved the world wrong. She wasn't weak. She wasn't helpless. She was Lisa Carter. And she always saw things clearer than anyone else. Lisa and Max walked side by side, their steps steady, the night air cool against her skin. The streets had quieted now, the sound of distant traffic humming like a soft whisper in the background. Max walked close, his strong body brushing against her leg every few steps. His breathing was even, calm, but Lisa could feel the quiet alertness in him. He never let his guard down completely. Not even now. Lisa reached down and ran her fingers through his fur. "You did good tonight, buddy," she murmured. Max let out a small huff, his tail wagging just a little. Lisa smiled. She knew the bikers were long gone. They had left in such a hurry, their motorcycles screeching as they sped away. But what she also knew: they would remember tonight. They would remember the blind woman they had mocked. They would remember the dog they had underestimated. And they would remember the fear they felt when they realized they were the ones in danger, not her. As Lisa and Max walked, her mind drifted back to the way people always judged her. It was the same, no matter where she went. A blind woman. Helpless. Weak. That's what they thought. They saw the white cane. They saw the dark glasses. They saw the guide dog. And that's all they saw. They didn't see her strength. They didn't see how she had rebuilt her life after losing her sight. They didn't see how she had trained herself to listen to the world differently, to move with confidence, to fight back when needed. They didn't see her story. All they saw was what she lacked. Lisa had learned long ago that people like to put others into boxes. They like simple ideas. A blind woman must be helpless. A woman walking alone at night must be weak. A golden retriever must be just a friendly pet. People didn't like to think too hard. They just assumed. But assumptions were dangerous. Not for her. For them. Lisa had met many people in her life who thought strength meant being big, loud, and tough. They thought power came from raising your voice, from throwing a punch, from making others afraid. But real strength was quiet. It was steady. It didn't need to shout. Real strength was a dog standing perfectly still, waiting for one word before springing into action. Real strength was a woman walking confidently down a dark street, not because she wasn't afraid, but because she refused to be a victim. Real strength was knowing who you were even when the world didn't. Lisa knew this. The bikers hadn't. And that was why they had lost. Lisa chuckled softly to herself. She wondered what those bikers were telling each other now. Maybe they were trying to rewrite the story, make themselves look like the tough ones. Maybe they were saying they had fought off some crazy attack dog or barely escaped a feral beast. But they knew the truth. And that truth would stay with them. Because they never saw it coming. They thought they had control of the situation. They thought they were the ones with power. And yet, in the end, they had been the ones running away. Lisa shook her head slightly. It was always the same. The ones who judged by appearances. They were the ones who never saw the truth until it was too late. Lisa had learned a long time ago that seeing wasn't just about using your eyes. People who could see often missed the most important things. They didn't notice how a voice trembled when someone was nervous. They didn't hear how footsteps changed when someone was afraid. They didn't feel how the air shifted when a person moved closer. They relied too much on their eyes. And because of that, they missed everything else. Lisa had lost her sight. But she had gained something else. She had learned to listen. She had learned to sense people's intentions. She had learned to see the world in a different way. And in doing so, she had discovered something incredible. Most people are blind. Even the ones who think they can see. Lisa didn't believe in violence without reason. Max had never hurt anyone unless he had to. He was trained to protect, not to attack without cause. And that's why she hadn't given the command. She could have. She could have let Max take the bikers down completely. But she hadn't. Because real justice wasn't about hurting people. Real justice was about teaching them a lesson. And the bikers had learned tonight. They had learned never to assume. They had learned never to judge someone by what they saw. And they had learned never to underestimate the quiet ones. Lisa took another sip of her coffee, letting the warmth spread through her. She had won tonight. Not because she had fought. Not because she had hurt anyone. But because she had stayed true to herself. She had walked away with her head high. She had let her strength speak for itself. And in the end, that was the greatest victory of all. Lisa took a deep breath and smiled. The night was calm. The world kept turning. And she and Max? They kept walking. Because for them, this was just another day.